covered the premiere of Star Trek Lower Decks, the premiere, season 1, episode 1, ironically titled Second Contact, as we react to this episode. And we have a great panel gathered tonight to talk about that. I'm Dave Mader, coming here on Live Long and Podcast with you with Star Trek movie and TV reviews and reenactments and all kinds of other things. Joined tonight by Jaemeel Robinson here in the top right-hand corner. How are you doing tonight, Jaemeel?
Always a pleasure.
Here, as we go clockwise, in the bottom right-hand corner, we have my wife, Jane Mader. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Hey, Jane.
Yeah.
Oh, I know how you're doing. You're here with me.
I'm right here.
And then in the bottom left-hand corner is my brother, Jeff Mader. How are you doing, Jeff?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. We were just here a little while ago talking about Star Trek, the original series. So this is our second podcast tonight here on Live Long and Podcast. We are here streaming live on Facebook and YouTube as we cover the premiere. So we welcome all of our viewers, and we're excited to talk about this as we get into this premiere. Okay, so Jeff asked me, "Did you like it? Did I like it?" We were all like, "Mum's the word." We're not saying anything. So we'll all get our own reactions here first. Before I'm going to go to Jaemeel first, if that's okay with the group. Jaemeel, I would like your reaction to the premiere of Star Trek Lower Decks.
I love watching pilots. I watch a lot of television, and the pilot does what it's supposed to in terms of introduce us to key characters and situations, kind of like setting up the story for the rest of the season. I think it does a good job in terms of that, and also the tone of the show. From the clips, it seemed like it was going to be extremely heavy in terms of the slapstick humor, but I think that it did a pretty good job in terms of having a story and seeing it through from beginning to end, which is what I want for my Trek. I just don't want a clip show.
Right.
So I'm pleasantly surprised by the show.
Okay, we got a pleasantly surprised. Jane, how about you next? So I've been dying to know, Jane. I kept bugging Jane on every commercial break. What do you think? What did you think of that? How are you feeling? How are you feeling about this so far? And she was like, "Leave me alone, Mater, and just let me watch it." So, Jane, how about you next? How did you feel about it?
I liked it better than I thought I would. I didn't have high hopes because of watching the clips and the humor, and I'm like, oh, that's not my kind of humor. But again, I felt like I was watching a episodic episode, just a little quicker. There was a problem. They fixed it. They had zombies. Like, who doesn't like zombies? What I didn't like was, and I'll get into, is the Mariner character, and I think that's what I didn't like when I saw the previews, is how quickly she talks, and I think she's mainly the issue I have with her humor. But I was looking at everyone else, and they look like they're going to be okay. It's just I think going to have a problem with that one character, the girl, the daughter,
Beckett Mariner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's pause on that. Let's go to Jeff last here. Well, maybe I'll be last actually, as I haven't given my take yet. But Jeff, your feelings on the premiere of Star Trek Lower Decks, Second Contact.
Okay. I concur with both Jaemeel and Jane of what they said, that the show, the pilot episode, does what the show wants to be. The humor, I don't know if it necessarily lands. Like I'm not laughing really hard at the jokes. But I am happy that it's a Star Trek show that, like you guys said, isn't like, a cut show, and it's not completely played for laughs. Although, like, let's face it, it's like 85% played for laughs. But I'm not laughing. So I'm having, like, there was a few funny things, but like, I don't know, it's not bringing it enough for me. As far as like, I'm overly impressed. It was okay. That's kind of how I felt about it. The Mariner character, yes, like, she's talking like so fast, like it's just like, why? Like slow it down. Like, Star Trek has never been a show to like bang 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 bang. It's always been a show that kind of takes its time, and if it has a funny moment, like it doesn't mind doing it slow. So it's like this is like Star Trek in overdrive, and so if I get like it's just like I don't know. I feel like with Star Trek, what they keep trying to do is play it to a mainstream audience, and like we need to make this mainstream and get everybody liking it, and then we can do, if we do that, then Star Trek will come back in a big way. But I don't know if that's necessary. So that's my main takeaway.
Okay. All right. So interesting. Okay. And so I'd say that was mixed. Kind of some ups and downs. And I'm going to say that I don't disagree with it. What anyone has said. I think they're all points well taken. I think overall my feeling on this show was that that this premiere revealed a lot of things about what this show is really about. And what I mostly took away from the reveals here were that this is kind of a family drama, a family, or maybe more of a family sitcom based in a Star Trek reality, or based in the Star Trek reality, because as we learn here that the Beckett character, Beckett Mariner, she is the daughter of the captain and this other admiral who's on another ship, right? Like, so presumably Mariner is his last name. And that she's this hot potato officer that she's competent and she's good, but she's a discipline problem. Nobody likes her, and she doesn't fit in well. And she has open contempt for the senior officers and sort of Starfleet, even though she's a member of Starfleet. So it's kind of she's definitely like a character I am not embracing necessarily or liking that much, just in terms of also the performance and then the writing, I guess it is too, with Tawny Newsome in this role, because it's just such a fast dialogue style. While I do appreciate the dynamic with her and the other main character, Brad Boimler, the other ensign, I think that they play off each other well, or at least I like his dynamic in the thing. But she's sort of like, as she's the main character, she is the lead of this particular program, and I think that's probably my most problematic issue coming out of it, because I liked all the other characters. I was really up on she was an Orion nurse. I was Ensign Devana Tendi. She was kind of like the new arrival, sort of like our eyes in this episode, and I thought that while she's very innocent, naive, she's not. I liked her character. I also found that the character of Sam Rutherford was great. I thought he was a really fun character. Although I'm kind of like mixed on my feelings on his implant, and it's a Vulcan implant that makes him act Vulcan sometimes. And but they've been really leaning into more like cybernetically enhanced people in the Star Trek universe, especially with Discovery, and like in this new era, that's been more of an integration into a lot more of the human characters in Star Trek. So that's interesting. And then all the senior officers, I think, are kind of a fun bunch. Did anyone else like the Doctor? Was anyone else really gravitating towards the Doctor like I was? Because
Cation? That's Cation?
she's a Cation. She's a cat. She's
Cat.
literally like, yeah. So what, Jay? What's it like? You're a cat lover.
Uh-huh.
Did you love seeing this cat character?
I did. I liked the Doctor. I think this did well as a pilot, because I'm engaged. I feel like I know these people now already so quickly.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. Like so. Okay. The other main character, Jaemeel. Did just in response to everything we all went through, because you haven't spoken in a bit here. Just so, what's your reaction to the points we've all made, and is something sticking out to you?
So the criticism about the speed in terms of which the main character was talking, actually, I disagree. I don't believe she is the main character. I believe she's going to be like one of the main characters, but I feel and I forget the actual main character. His name is
Brad Boimler.
Brad Boimler
Yeah.
is the main character, and he's playing off of I feel terrible a Beckett Mariner. So Brad is going to be the straight man, but also we kind of see that he's loosening up. So he's going to be our character that I think we're going to be kind of projecting ourselves onto, whereas Beckett's going to be this wild, crazy person that is kind of taking us along on this adventure. So I'm totally fine with it. In addition, I'm a member of the Creek Freaks, Dawson Creek, which means very long words said very quickly,
Yeah.
and that is the language in which they present their stories. So I'm kind of used to this. This isn't much of a problem to me as well. I'm just very. I tried to keep myself very level-headed when it comes to pilots because pilots generally are the is the first taste of what the show is, and then after everything is done, they kind of look at what they have in front of us and make adjustments as necessary. So they might cool Beckett down a little bit, kind of slow her down a little bit, so that it isn't just she isn't a mad woman, uh, but still kind of like they want a female Kirk type of loose cannon problem child. That's what they're looking at, and the building blocks are there. Hopefully, they're thinking that maybe Brad might rein her in, and then we're just on for that journey. Um, Absolutely right. Everything else that you mentioned in terms of the other characters, I think you're absolutely spot on. Everyone is spot on. Like for the most part, like I think that we're all kind of pleasantly surprised that this isn't a train wreck. So, like, and
Well, Jeff might object there. I don't know. We'll have to see what
he said the comedy didn't land, and comedy, especially in animated form, can freeze like my
like your video has just now.
my
Okay,
video had.
oh, you're going to beta. He's on. It's Jaemeel beta mode. There we go.
Go back to the other camera. See how quickly that is. Comedy and animation is kind of hit or miss. So I think that could be something that's developed. I was more concerned about the narrative, and that they actually had a beginning, middle, and end. So I was quite happy with that. Everything else they can work on and kind of improve.
Okay, yeah, great points. Any
I was
responses?
just thinking, like, Mariner seems like a military brat to me, and I thought, oh, that's going to be annoying. But then when she was selling the equipment to the farmers, I think she's going to have more depth. Like, it's not in the pilot where you see there's this annoying little brat. I think they are going to develop her more, and I think I saw it. That's going to happen. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, like as these four primary leads stand, I guess you can call it four. I feel the reason I call Beckett Mariner the lead because her name, like, or the Tawny Newsome actor who voices that character, comes first in the credits, and so I was kind of perceiving her to be sort of the leader of these four, for whatever reason. But maybe it's just they're equal, the four of them, or maybe it's maybe these two. Beckett and Broimler, right?
It came off to me that it was going to be about the four of them.
Yeah, but these two are sort of maybe a little about in the lead of that. Yeah. But they're kind of like almost like a Seinfeld ensemble. It feels like in some ways too, right? Like they're sort of like the two friends, and then you got the one lady in there, and you got the Rutherford. He's kind of like Kramer. He's maybe the Kramer character. I don't know. You can take it or leave it on that comparison or that metaphor, but it feels very sitcom-y, right? And I was pleasantly surprised that it wasn't a train wreck, that it felt like it was in this universe. I'm like, does this feel like it's in Star Trek? That's my main concern coming in, and I feel like it kind of did. I feel like it fulfilled that. Did the comedy land for me? Not all the ways. I find like it's some of it's hit and miss for me. I'd say it's 50-50. I think, and the more that they act out of character as Starfleet, the less I like it, right? Like, so this first officer kind of not getting his bug bite checked. Well, that's kind of consistent, but it's also kind of like he's not. But you could see a character doing that.
Transporter filtered that out.
Right. I feel like it's completely honest. I feel like everything they did was honest to what could be a trope in Star Trek. That there could be a character like this who would act like this or talk like this in an episode is very conceivable, right? And if you throw them all together in one episode, like in one premise or setting, then you can get like sort of a farce effect like we're getting here. But it's still real. Like there's still real people with problems, and there's sort of like what are the ramifications, and that the senior officers in Star Trek don't treat the nondescript people great, right? Like, and so this is sort of a commentary on that and sort of a satirical look at it, and I'm in, like, because as long as it feels truthful and consistent, then I won't get upset. But I feel if it deviates too far from that, if it feels like you're just turning in this to a circus, then then it needs to live in sort of its own reality for me to have enjoyment with it.
Mhm.
Jeff,
Yeah.
how did the
Maybe.
Leafs do?
Not
How did the
convinced,
Leafs
not
do?
convinced.
Yeah, it's 3-2 right now, but that's beside the point. We're here to talk about Star Trek Lower Deck. Right? It's. I don't feel like I'm the only one that's gonna say this. Maybe not amongst us four, but a lot of Star Trek fans. It's like it's not what I want. You know, I didn't ask for this. Star Trek Lower Decks. It's been thrust upon me,
Yeah.
and it, you know what it reminds me of? Like, remember like Teletoon or like what's it like? Some of those like old cartoons that were always on late at night. That would just be in syndication and like a Ren and Stimpy, like it just reminds me, like, it goes with those cartoons, and it's using Star Trek as like its catalyst, which is fine. Like, and it's I'm not looking for it to be like really faithful to the Star Trek universe. So I'm good with it, but at the same time, it wasn't that funny for me. Like, it was just like there was funny moments. I thought the moment where in the holodeck where they all like she like switches it to the holodeck program where it's all like naked dudes working out. I thought that was funny. That made me laugh.
So if you want anything out of the show, you just want to laugh. You don't want like
I think that's what the show's trying to do. I mean,
That's-
so, like,
That's not what I got from what Jeff said. He said he wants a holodeck program with naked dudes. That's what I got.
well, I thought it was funny. I mean, I thought it was the one time I laughed when I was watching the episode. I was like, okay, that was pretty funny. But the stuff where he was naked and stuff, and he was covered in like the purple goo, and he was like, I'm naked, and I was just like, oh, this is just not hitting for me. I did it hit for you guys? Like, did you like it?
I'd say I did.
So, concerning the animation that you were talking about, and like the wheelhouse that it seems like it's going through, looking up the animation studio that made this was Titmouse, which I've actually looking through their history. I am a fan of their past work. So they've done Metalocalypse. I'm always terrible saying that.
Metalocalypse.
Yeah, exactly what you just said. They also did Black Dynamite, Scott Pilgrim vs. the Animation. They also did the Spider-Ham intro for Into the Spider-Verse. They're currently doing Big Mouth as well, and Venture Brothers as well. So they're in that animation kind of satirical, adult skewing kind of wheelhouse. So we're gonna see this show for a while. This show is currently ordered for 2 seasons, right? So we have 10 episodes this season, and I don't know what the order is for the second season, but they're gonna have a little bit of room to kind of to play. So I don't know. I'm interested to see where it's going. Like, once again, seeing a lot of pilots. Like, there's a lot of terrible good shows that have terrible pilots, or shows that don't really land on the humor, like Modern Family. 10 season Modern Family, the pilot is atrocious, but in terms of setting up the characters, you get to know who everyone is, and then by episode 3 they kind of find their footing of exactly how each character plays off of each other, and where is that comedy sweet spot. Right. So
Yeah, I agree. I think that's definitely possible. There's potential in the show. I'm not saying it's all bad. I'm just saying, like, it didn't like grab me where I find like a show, I'm going to watch the pilot and I'm going to like invest into the show. I want to be impressed, but maybe I shouldn't be. Maybe I should just be looking for character building and world building, because that's usually what pilots do. Right. So, I don't know. It was okay. I mean,
I got something to say here too with it. Like, okay, like the animation style didn't bug me, and that's saying something good, because I have a lot of problems with modern animation, and most of it doesn't land for me because I feel like it's too ridiculous. Like this borderlines on Family Guy, which is not really my style either, but it worked for me mostly. I have my nitpicks with the design here, overall design, and sort of just weird choices. So this is taking place in 2380, which is a year after Nemesis, right? So the uniforms apparently went through a drastic redesign a year after Nemesis, which is fine if that's what you're going with here. But this look of this uniform, the com badge doesn't quite work for me because it's not consistent with what we'll see within even 5 years of this. And the science division wears, they all have like this color embellishment on their boots, but they wear a white boots. They have blue with white boots. Everyone else wears black boots. A weird.
Why the white boots?
Why the white boots? Thoughts?
Before Labor Day.
I don't know. To see if there's blood on them, then they have to change their
Right? Like,
Didn't bother me. I'm not a uniform guy. Doesn't really pretend. I don't care.
all right. Well, the uniform community is, these are the things I always look at. Like I always look at, because this was so faithful, so consistent with Next Generation in particular, and Voyager, and that kind, Deep Space Nine, that whole era, and because that's the era it's taking place in, right? So it's I love seeing the space dock in the opening shot, and all the LCARS panels, and like the feeling of the bridge, and just that the setting that this was created, and the animation style. I thought that this all worked. I thought that they were truly faithful. I felt like this was real. I'm like, this could really be happening, but maybe this is like the cartoon version, because there's precedent in the Star Trek canon for Star Trek the Animated Series. That's a canon series, right? So
what did you think of the intro?
The intro, I liked the intro.
And
Except the intro was a little silly because so it felt like very like the Orville-esque, right? Yeah. Just the music, the look, the ship kind of going around. But then it had the Next Generation font. It was actually the same font from the next TNG. They're like, this is TNG era, and yeah, like the whole thing about it was felt like that. But then like they show up to the Borg ship, like there's all these Romulan warbirds fighting Borg cubes, and then they just fire one shot, and then they turn around and they run away. I'm like, that's not Starfleet. They wouldn't leave these Romulans to all die fighting the Borg.
Sets up to me that this is not a flagship ship we're dealing with for this. It's one of the
Jody is with Jeff. He says, "Dear God, take off your rose-colored glasses, everybody." Awful. So Jody's down on this.
Jody, no.
I'm kind of with Jody. I'm not all the way with Jody. I wouldn't say it was awful, but it wasn't. It was very Rick and Morty. That was what I was thinking. Yeah, Rick and Morty meets the Orville. That's what this show is.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't understand that comparison because when we're talking about comedy not landing, that is the Orville's like main thing. The comedy of the Orville is its weakest thing.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I agree.
It's like when I go through it and my mouth does not twitch in terms of laughter. There is no laughter that comes out of my body at all during the Orville. Like there is enjoyment of the narrative, and I think that the Orville does a great job narrative wise. If some people get comedy chuckles out of it, good luck, I guess. Yes, congratulations. But I don't get anything from that. In terms of like Rick and Morty, yes, absolutely. The animation style was a choice. Titmouse does a wide variety of different styles through what I've mentioned in terms of their past history. This was a dedicated choice in terms of the animation style, yes, but it is in tone, in terms of like how cynical it is. This is Star Trek, like Lower Decks does not have this cynical slant that Rick and Morty does. Like animation style, yes, but
No.
The tone, I absolutely flat out disagree. And plus, this is the pilot. Like, it's the pilot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But I get it. And you said it earlier, Jaemeel, that you watch a lot of TV, so you're used to what pilots are. and you're not looking to be impressed. You're looking to just hope that it can do its job.
3
Basic-
episodes.
Right. You
Give
got
it 3 episodes.
Right.
Right.
Uh,
And Jody's pointing out that every character in the show is essentially another Star Trek character. So yeah, I definitely agree that this first officer of the ship, the one's played by Jerry O'Connell, Commander Jack Ransom, he's very much the Riker of this ship. Very
They have a
much.
They have a Geordie for sure.
Right.
Like a Geordie Data hybrid.
Yeah, and also, yeah, I think who's the captain based on really? Like kind of a
Janeway.
she's kind of a Janeway, she's kind of a Cisco, she's kind of a both.
This
She's
is Dion Lewis. To
Yeah.
me, she just feels like Dion Lewis as a captain. That's the vibe I get from her.
Dion, that's how you pronounce her? It's not Dawn, it's Dion.
I've always called her Dion. I could be wrong, but I've always called her. It could be Dawn Lewis. It could be, but
Who's Ensign
that's-
Boimer?
Ensign Boimler is played, or Brad Boimler is played by Jack Quaid, who is the
Son of Meg Ryan and
Dennis Quaid.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is kind of-
he's from The Boys. He's the
Hmm.
the straight man in The Boys.
And he said, and Jody's pointing out that the doctor, the Cation, which is what's the doctor's name? Tiana. She's a Cation doctor. That's kind of the female Bones. Kind of, yeah. I think she's like, nobody's allowed to pass out, and she's kind of going on. And I'm like, I love this doctor character. I want to. My wish the show is about her and her running the sick bay and just trying to keep everyone alive. Can we talk about the zombie plot? Just the fact that that Jack Ransom, this Riker, gets the bug bite and then he turns into the zombie. And I guess, if my only beef with it or like complaint is that the two that are on the date, Rutherford and the Trill officer, I forget her name, that they are just like, whatever, it's just another Tuesday night here on the Cerritos, and an alien virus is taking over. And that's true, but you don't want to get taken over by the alien virus either. Space is always trying to kill you, and that's kind of a reality of Star Trek. But they were a little bit too cool for my taste there. But I thought that was a fun trope in the episode, that they're all trying to bite each other and they're spewing the black goo. I'm like, yeah, this could totally be an episode. We had episodes of Star Trek where people turn into spiders and people's brains are removed, or they turn into salamanders and have children on planets. And, there's all kinds of crazy Star Trek stuff that happens all the time. And tonally, I'm like, this is not dishonest. So, but I could get why you would feel like it's a version of Scary Movie on Star Trek. It's almost too much of a parody of itself. Like, are you a parody or are you being authentic? And I think that's the question that
I love the zombies. It's like, what's that? Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies. It's Star Trek and zombies. I loved it.
But you wouldn't say that. Yeah,
I feel like the show kind of is like, hey, why don't we make a show with Star Trek where we lighten it up, because Star Trek is too serious and we need to lighten it up and make the characters have more fun. And I don't want that for my Star Trek. I want them to be serious. And you're right, David. Are you a parody? Are you Galaxy Quest, or are you trying to stay faithful to the original canon and the original all the storylines? Are you staying faithful to that, or are you not? So I'm confused. That's all.
So, okay, understanding that point, what you just mentioned, and that's totally fine. You want your Star Trek serious, but it's you have a variety of different types of pizza, varieties of different types of chips, right? So as long as they're not impacting and the greater sense of what Star Trek is, and just providing a separate selection, a separate taste, a different menu, an off menu, if you will, of Star Trek, then what's the harm? The harm that we currently have, and I think this is the problem that people are going to have overall with the situation, is that there isn't a strong main show. So Star Trek Lower Decks, all of its issues are magnified because we can't just go back to Discovery or Picard for sensible Star Trek action.
I'm kind of grounded in my Star Trek again. The only way to do that is to kind of go back and watch the really old stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way to do that now, and that's kind of why here on Live Longer Podcast we do these weekly, let's rewatch original series, let's watch Deep Space Nine. This is kind of what Star Trek was. Now, what is Star Trek? And here we have Lower Decks, but we're also going to have Discovery Season 3 coming soon. We already did Picard this year. It's a great time to be a Star Trek fan in a lot of ways because there's so much new content, but so much of it is tonally sort of confused about what it is and what it wants to be. And now we have Discovery, Lower Decks, and Picard all existing at the same time, and they're so different from one another, but they're all connected under the same umbrella. Plus, we're gonna have new movies and things presumably, and there's even more shows coming, like Strange New Worlds, and you know the universe, the Star Trek universe is getting crowded. We have a renaissance of Star Trek, but it's not like we're going back to it. They want to create it as a new era, right? It wants it to have its own identity. And I respect that. Just like TNG definitely had its own, and the two shows that came right after DS9 and Voyager were very much in the same universe, but like felt the same. But this is like, it just like the success of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is not an accident, right? This is not a coincidence. People want it to all feel connected. I want to be able to say, okay, Iron Man to Winter Soldier to these different movies, or even the TV shows, this all lives in the same reality. I don't have to be tuned into every part of it. That was what made comic books so strong, was that like I can like a Spider-Man comic book, but I don't need to read the Shield comic book, but they can all connect and they can cross over at times, and that's interesting, and maybe that makes me want to learn a little bit more about those characters. And so that's why I'm always I'm always looking at, like, unless you say to me like Star Trek Lower Decks is completely different reality, it doesn't exist in the main reality. Yeah, but the comic book wouldn't be considered canon, and so like the novels and things like that, they've always lived in sort of like the same thing as like in the Star Wars universe, where that's off canon, that doesn't count, right? Like
does this count?
This
It
counts.
does count.
It counts. This is canon.
I like that.
Until they say it doesn't.
That's the thing. Canon is only canon. Sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Canon is only canon because CBS, whoever owns it, says it is. Right? If they say this is canon, if they say tomorrow Next Generation didn't exist, it's not canon anymore. That's now canon, right? They have control over canon. I know it's bullshit, but that is what canon. Sorry, Jade. I didn't.
Yeah, no. So what I liked about this and what you're talking about, I like that this is still based in science. Still feels like a science fiction show. So they could have gone all crazy and had zombies for no reason. No, it was because of a virus, and the reason they cured it was because of science. So in that way, it still feels like Star Trek. They're not just a cartoon where people's heads explode for no reason with a sledgehammer and move on. You know, it still felt like science fiction. So,
and Jody just was commenting too that Alex Kurtzman should have went to the guys who did Venture Brothers. That would have made this better. Who are Venture Brothers? I don't know.
Venture Brothers is possibly one of the best shows ever created, animation otherwise, but it takes, like, if they said they were going to make a Star Trek Venture Brothers show, we could announce it today, and maybe in 5 years we'll see an episode. Venture Brothers takes a long time for them to make their shows. It's Venture Brothers is kind of a satirical look at Johnny Quest and a lot of those kind of animation properties of Hanna-Barbera, the action adventure kind, but extremely cynical and satirical. It is fantastic. It is done in-house with love, and I think it started, I think, in 2004, and it's just gonna get its 8th season next year. That's how long it takes for them to do their seasons. So I absolutely understand, in terms of Jordy's point, in making a Star Trek show should have the level of care that Venture Brothers has, in terms of, one, you have creative forces who are deeply in love and deeply consumed by the product and want to keep everything as tight as possible, and wants to have the highest level quality being released. So yes, I agree, although it would never come out.
Okay, so yeah, I don't know if this was the best creative team, but
Yeah, we'll have to see. I'm kind of just Star Trek right now, bless their hearts, it isn't like for lack of trying to get something that works, and they're just throwing a lot of stuff against the wall. Um, and the people who are in working behind the scenes, like the actors, I mean, they're trying. It's not like they're it's not like they're not trying. Like the bottom line that people have with Star Trek is the creative forces and our executive producers, and unfortunately, until that changes, this is what we got.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be as positive as possible in terms of Picard and Discovery and Strange New Worlds. We'll see. Lower Decks, from what they offered in terms of the pilot, like I was afraid I was going to get Robot Chicken, where
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
where it's,
That was
it's
my
like,
fear.
it's going to be like, oh, Captain lost his pants today, and it's like we're going to find Captain's pants as
They
the main
did kind of lose their
storyline.
pants, though. They did lose their pants, to your
There
point.
was an element of Robot Chicken in the show, and it was part of it was what was bothering me. I'm like, this is just stupid. At a certain point, I was just getting to a point where I was just like,
it's gonna be the
why?
thumbnail for the episode.
Why are you like? I get you. Like, I think you're right to the point you made earlier, Jaemeel, where if we had a good, solid TNG DS9 style show on the air right now, I would look at this as a cute. I still do, but it's a cute little side project, and that's kind of how I look at it. But does that mean like I like it? I don't. It's not for me. I could understand other people would say, "Oh, I love this," and people who are animated like super fans, I can understand like them loving this. But like, I'm not 14 anymore. I would have loved this if I was 14. But for me, I don't. It's not what interests me anymore. But I understand people who continue to love animated. It doesn't matter how old you are. But just I don't know. I grew out of it. I grew out of this type of stuff when I was in like high school.
Like, I see this as a means to an end, largely. Like, if this is like a property that can be successful and can be truthful to Star Trek, like when Star Trek's ridiculous and what's ridiculous about it, so that somebody who can like this show can also kind of it can be a gateway into the whole world of Star Trek. That, because I think I think the Star Trek's worthwhile in terms of other people liking it, because that's why we podcast about it. And that's why we talk about it, because we have that shared connection around it and what it means to us. And the more people that I think are dialed into that, I think that the philosophy, the message of it is important. An optimistic view of the future. Going to space. Believing in ourselves as humans. All those things are important. And the more that this Beckett character was tearing down that, the less I liked the show. But otherwise, I was like, yeah, this is great. This might bring
Let me ask you this, Dave. Let me ask you this, Dave. Would you watch this show if it wasn't Star Trek? Like, if this was like just a Galaxy Quest world and it wasn't a Star Trek world, would you still watch the show?
I might, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that's fair enough. For me, I would not. I'm only watching it because it's Star Trek, and so like that's like so like that's just where it comes down to, and I don't know. I bet you a lot of other people are going to feel that way. Like they're all right. I love Star Trek. I'm going to watch this because I love Star Trek, but they're like, I don't like an animated comedy show anymore. Like, it's not really kind of my thing. They did this with Star Wars, but they didn't make it a comedy, right? Like the Clone Wars series was very serious, right? So like so you can do an animated thing and not make it like slapstick comedy. But this is the problem with like CBS owning Star Trek, is everything has to be like family friendly, family oriented. Everybody has to be able to watch it, or maybe not family, but like not R-rated, basically, right? Like, even though there was some pretty raunchy stuff in this episode tonight. I mean, the main character Mariner was getting drunk on the Romulan ale or whatever the whiskey she was calling, which I thought was weird.
Right.
But they bleeped out the swear word, at least on what we were watching on
CTV.
Yeah, I think they said shit. I think, and it was bleeped out.
Yeah,
Did you
I
guys
was
hear
watching
that?
the CBS. I watched both feeds. I watched the CTV sci-fi, and also watched the CBS version of it. And I remember in the CBS one that there were beeps as
I
well.
think it was
so,
the doctor said shit at one point. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the question I have, and I think each person should kind of have this statement. What do you think is the end goal of this series? If they're doing a finale, let's say from now what we see, what is the finale of this show? what do you see it as? Do you see it as being like a conclusion, or do you think it just ends?
I'll go first if everyone's okay. Like my answer to that is like I think that the conclusion of this show is sort of a reconciliation between the senior officers and the junior officers. I think that's what the show is about. I think it's and also this sort of like parent-child relationship between the captain, who's the mother clearly, and the Beckett Mariner, who I think is certainly one of the main leads of this show, if not the main lead, and that whole dynamic, how that's going to play out. So I think reconciliation between her and her mother, her being able to sort of be her own person, but also work within Starfleet and the rules, and that's sort of the conflict that they're trying to resolve. That's my theory, but in terms of where the narrative of the series is going,
I think the main thing will be the lower decks people becoming upper decks people eventually. They won't stay in the lower decks forever. They're going to definitely get promoted, and they're definitely going to become, and they'll probably introduce more lower deck characters, be my guess. Once, and like I won't be surprised if the 4 main leads that we have right now become the bridge crew, and like after season 1 or season 2 or whatever, and then they have a whole new set of characters that they bring in. That's what I see what will happen. Yeah.
My expectation was it would just stay on these lower decks people, and we'd see the bridge crew, but still not a lot. It would focus on the lower decks for 2 seasons or however long. That's what I was expecting.
Okay. Like I foresee Beckett, yes, absolutely reconciling with her family. Jody.
thinks he wants another Wolf 359. He wants the whole no survivors.
I think Beckett will kind of find her place in the Federation or not. Maybe it's like, and her parents kind of understand that, maybe she isn't made for Starfleet, but she's able to contribute to the galaxy in a different role. Brad becomes more willing to bend the rules to become a better captain, kind of like Jean-Luc's different his trajectory in which he was going. The lower decks people, yes, absolutely getting promoted to the bridge crew, and then kind of looking back and appreciating their time that they spent on the lower decks as a new crew comes in, kind of like they graduated and it was a tough time, but just like what we mentioned in Deep Space Nine this week, Bashir having to cut his teeth looking after the the ambassadors. He's better from that experience, as they were better from the experience that they had.
Yeah, like I think like where I started to like the show more in parts was like that scene where she's like, "Do you know everything that's happened to me? I spent a cave for a week that was like telepathic, and that's deep." And then I was in a Klingon prison camp, and I'm like, yeah, like I could see a Starfleet officer just being messed up from all these things, like a 24th century person.
I had to fight a Yeti for my shoes. No reason, just he was being a dick.
Yeah, I was like, that's great. Like this is definitely aimed at adults. So it's not, I don't know, but I guess like also young, like teenagers, right? Because like it's meant to bring in probably a younger audience by being like kind of like when we were or Jaemeel and I specifically more where we were specifically high school years, and like South Park was out, and that was meant to like bring in like it was meant for adult, but kind of brought in like the high school crowd too. Sort of having it.
This is what I think they have to do: a Mirror Universe episode where nobody is funny whatsoever.
No jokes. No jokes.
They're just assholes. They're mean. It would be hilarious. Yeah, if they do that, I will watch that episode.
I hope that Mirror Beckett just talks slowly. like Michael Burnham.
Yeah. Oh no, not Michael Burnham.
Yeah. So maybe she'll take over the ship. She says a mutiny style.
So you want Discovery? You want
Discovery? No, because I think that they've counter corrected because Michael Burnham just speaks so slowly, and she's got just eats up her scenes, right? And then like this one is just like, we only got 22 minutes. I'm gonna say a million things in a breath, right?
Yeah, she probably records it fast and then they speed it up in post and make it even faster.
Make it even faster.
I'm kind of hoping that every ludicrous Star Trek single shot episode that occurred, that storyline. Like, wonder what happened to that race, or I wonder what happened with that stupid like episode. They follow up and do so. We might have Move Along Home too, and I'll be the happiest man in the world.
You know what was amazing on Space? Move Along Home was the episode of Deep Space Nine that was on right before Star Trek Lower Decks.
I know that's something. Yeah.
Isn't it?
it came-
Was it?
Yeah. Where is it?
Put on
That's-
the worst episode of Star Trek ever.
I also have to get the Kevin Alabarain as a sound clip.
We'll put on the worst episode of Star Trek ever, and for the most part, and and then we'll put on Lower Decks. So Lower Decks will definitely seem better. But I would much rather watch Move Along Home.
If there was a Move Along Home Part 2 with that alien race in Lower Decks,
Oh yes,
yes, Code of Honor, yes, follow up with like all the bad episodes. Like they could do so much work in terms of that. Like
Right.
just follow up with these races that we don't want to spend a Star Trek episode following up on. Throw them to Lower Decks, literally.
to me, like I think Lower Decks could do stuff that the other Star Trek wouldn't touch again. That I think if they had shown me a little bit of that in this episode, I think I'd be a little bit more on board. But I didn't get. They don't have time. They're 22 minutes. That's part of the problem with these episodes here. They have to jam everything in. So I think you're right. Like, how many episodes are they doing in a season, Dave? Do you know?
10.
10.
10. Yeah.
That's it. Oh, jeez. Okay. All right. I hope you're right. I hope they can do this and put in the what was the race called, the Wadi. Give me a Wadi episode.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to the Gamma Quadrant. Yeah, it's going to be interesting how they explore this universe. I thought just on the whole, did anyone else like the premise of just second contact? Like, we all know about first contact and it's really important, but sort of the follow-up visit and what's that's like. And they always say we're sending another ship to deal with like the follow-up mission, and that's what this ship is. We get to kind of see that side of this galaxy or that side of this universe. And as long as it's truthful to Star Trek, I'm in. But the second it gets too ridiculous, I'm going to be sort of taken out of the moment or taken out of this world. Because for me to even embrace this as content is tough for me, because I wouldn't be gravitated towards it as much. Like, to your point, Jeff, would I watch it? Maybe. If it was like a really authentic, like Galaxy Quest like thing that, I could sort of not have those concerns anymore, then great.
Did you watch Futurama?
Futurama didn't really speak to me. I wasn't a big
Okay.
Futurama person. I like Simpsons though, and there's like certain things I like, but yeah. Okay. We're coming up on not even an hour yet, but what else?
Minute episode. So I mean, there's only so much to talk about, within this episode. But we can go to our ratings, or we can go to.
Hi, Jody.
We should do it. Really.
Jody!
Hello,
Yeah.
Has anyone reached out to you to ask to give their feedback to the show? Because I've already got a couple people already.
No, but you feel free to share that while I work on a little thing here.
So I try to direct them to our live feed. Unfortunately, they did not get to it. A little disappointed, sad. But they said that they really digged the Lower Decks. I'm going to quote: "Star Trek Lower Decks is hilarious. Loving it. Can't wait for more." This was a fan from St. Louis, Laura. Thank you, Laura, and continue watching Live Long and Podcast.
Cool.
Okay, so there's more people that are kind of up on it, and that's good. That's good to hear. Okay, so let's just put that out for a second, and get rid of that.
And I haven't spent enough time looking on Twitter to see if people are just completely hating it. But so far, I haven't really seen anything.
We know Jody. Okay, so at least two people are.
I don't hate it. Okay, I just don't think it's necessary. That's kind of how I feel.
Yeah, but okay. They didn't screw it up. I was expecting them to screw it up, and for a pilot, they did not screw this up. It felt like Star Trek, and I was expecting it a little more silly, but no. So we'll do our rating.
Can I read back some feedback that I'm seeing here on Twitter?
Yes, go ahead. Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, first one from a person named Edge Rabbit. I would seriously rather inhale mustard gas than acknowledge that Star Trek Lower Decks is a thing. That's one person's opinion. Another person, Kieran, says Star Trek Lower Decks is Star Trek Lower Decks is like my head canon becoming canon. It's perfect. So you're seeing a wide range of people's
Surprising. That's what I figured. I figured people are either going to hate this, love it, kind of dig the humor.
Yep.
The review here on IMDb, the girl was like, well, we can say for sure that Matt Groening's long-lost sibling has not been found by the looks of this. It tries to please with familiar shapes, names, and references far too much, making it a bit cringe when it was probably going for camp. While some of the thematic humor worked, I can't imagine this will continue for more than 2 or 3 episodes. In fact, it seems like the pilot covered most of the basis already, and this means that very soon it has to do its own thing instead of leaning on decades of material, which is what we talked about, right, guys? So I would agree with that. That it's going to the pilot. We can't judge the show on the pilot, really. I mean, that's really what it comes down to because but it better get funnier because right now it's not very funny. Like that's how I feel about it. I only laughed a few times, and if you're trying to play for laughs that much, I don't know. You gotta grab my attention with the laugh. Like, but to Jameel's point, like Modern Family sucked at the beginning, and then it got really really good,
so bad.
And so I feel like that this can happen with this show. But they gotta slow some characters down here, and they gotta stop making the jokes so fast because like that's part of the problem too with like a Family Guy or or Robot Chicken. It's just like here's a joke, here's a joke, here's a joke, here's a joke. It's just like Jesus, like calm it down, like you know.
I don't need rapid fire jokes. I don't need the machine gun of jokes in my animated show. I know what you mean. And I think that to be funny, really in Star Trek, I think Star Trek is the characters of Star Trek are funny when we love the characters. So they need to get us to appreciate these characters as well. That's why even the Simpsons, right? Like we love the Simpsons because we love them and we believe that they love each other too, and like that's important to sort of the dynamic of the show. Even though like Homer strangling Bart sometimes is maybe a counter to that. There's some bad examples, but overall in the Simpsons, like the town, the people of the town, you kind of believe in it. And so an animated version of Star Trek sort of, I think in this, especially in this tone, needs the same thing. So I was kind of like digging. I was checking out who are these officers, like this doctor I really liked, this security chief Bajoran guy who's like jacked and huge and whatever his name is. He kind of stuck out to me. The captain, the first officer, I do not like. I even though I like Jerry O'Connell and everything, but
he plays douche well.
Yeah.
The douchebag first officer. Yeah, I guess sure, but these guys should usually die in Star Trek episodes. Like they're not long for this world. Or like the guy that remember when Data had to be the captain of that ship. He's like, I don't think androids should be right, and he was like, usually those guys would die. He somehow lived through that episode. But the Data like dressed him down, right?
That first officer is going to have every bad thing happen to him every single episode. We know in advance, right? That's the character he's going to play, right? He's going to slip on a banana peel. He's going to try hitting on women, and the women's going to be like this huge beast. You know, an episode like that's going to happen. He's going to fall in love with someone in a holodeck. And the holodeck's going to end up rejecting him. Like I can already start creating beeline storylines for him, like just off the top of my head.
Right. Okay. How about we get some ratings in here? We've talked about this a lot. Let's talk about sort of just quantifiably, what does this actually mean? So what do we actually think about this episode? Let's go solo on here and let's bring this up. So sorry, I need a Jane column. What am I doing here?
Yes.
Okay. Who wants to go first? Whoever wants to speak up first. I don't care.
All right.
Jane, do you have a rating?
I would give it 6.
A 6. Okay.
Yeah.
Jaemeel?
6.5. Slightly
All right.
above. Yeah.
Jeff, do you have a rating?
I give it a 4.
Okay.
4.
That's
I'm
fair.
gonna give it. I'm gonna give it a 7.9.
Wow.
And
7.9.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
yeah, 7.9. I think it was decent. And I think a 6.1 is our average from between the 4 ratings here, which 6 out of 10, like decent. You passed, but I don't think you blew us away. Maybe
No.
There's room for improvement.
room for. Sorry, let's hide that and bring me back. Yeah, so 6 out of 10, sort of C minus. Out of the Canadian system of grades.
Well, yeah, like there's kind of like they I would give it like a 9 out of 10 for building the world and setting it all up, and then like a 4 or 5 out of 10 of laughs and stuff. So
Yeah, I don't care. I don't really care how much this show makes.
Averaging out
I
6,
did laugh. I was laughing.
you did. I was noticing you were chuckling. You definitely were.
That's
I was
what
chuckling,
good.
Jeff.
That's
There
good.
were legitimate
You are-
chuckles coming from
I
me.
was, I was witness to the chuckling. The chuckling did occur.
There were chuckles. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 60%. It's a C student right now.
Which I think is more than fair. I think absolutely. There were chuckles.
we laughed. We laughed.
That's the best review you could get. There were chuckles.
There were some chuckles.
Live long and
And right. Did you? Okay. Are you guys? Did any of the cast excite you? I mentioned Jerry O'Connell.
Mhm.
The fact that what's the guy's name who plays the
Cat, Cat Tian, that is
Oh, it's a guy with the space in his teeth.
Paul Scheer?
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah,
know the
Paul
comedian
Scheer's
Paul
great.
Scheer?
yes,
Yeah,
Paul
he's
Scheer.
he's
Yeah.
playing the chief engineer. Who's the
Oh,
direct
he's
boss
the
of
lead.
Rutherford?
Yeah, he's from the league. Paul
Yeah, the
Scheer.
league and stuff. Yeah.
And how did this get made?
Yeah.
Right. There's some interesting people involved in this show. Gillian Vigman, who's that? She's a voice actor playing the cat doctor.
Yeah, great job. Don Lewis, who I messed up pronunciation. I hope there's like I need a hanging with Mr. Cooper reference, and I'll be fine.
Different
Fred-
strokes.
Fred Tacciatore.
Yeah.
I played the Hulk in the Ultimate Alliance Avengers and a bunch of other stuff. So kind of just some great voice actors involved. I'm mostly up on this show so far. 7 almost an 8 out of 10 for me. Not great, but better than Alan Moraine and better than some of the other stuff that they've done. So hey,
You think that episode was better than Alan Moraine?
how dare you? Well, we'll see. We'll come back to it one day, and I'll tell you what I really think. But for now, I'm more up on it. Yeah, hit the sticks together.
Alan Moraine is a treasure.
Yeah, it's a treasure of Star Trek. Well, we weren't thinking that until recently, so that's kind
I
of.
was
the new
always
thing.
on board. I was always on that train.
All right. We haven't really set this. I guess this will be a podcast. We're going to cover, this. And whoever wants to come back, Jeff, if you can't handle it, it's okay. We understand. But if you want to come in to talk about Star Trek Lower Decks, definitely
It's only
do.
9 more. God damn, it's gonna be
Only 22 minutes. It's not too bad, but
I hope it gets better. I mean, I think it will. Pilots usually suck, so I hope it does get better.
all right.
Yeah, I think it's podcast worthy.
Yeah,
You weren't even sure about that earlier before we saw it.
Yeah, we were like, are we gonna be able to? Because if it was
Like-
Robot Chicken, I don't think I could have done a whole series of podcasts. But as to my rating, I think that I'm up on this. So yeah, I'm excited to do it. Okay, so next week we'll be back for the second episode, which is titled Envoys, whatever that means. So we're going to find out. Also here in Live Long and Podcast, we have numerous shows and programs, as well as on our sister channels over on the Super Mater Brothers podcasting, ironically, and Trivial Debates and Knee Jerk Sports and all the other projects we have going on, and our different podcasters going on. Jaemeel included in these with your different shows, and feel free to plug those if you wish, Jaemeel. But we also tomorrow here on Live Long and Podcast, we have Star Trek Radio Theory. Jeff playing the role of Jadzir Dax in a recreation of the Blood Oath episode from Deep Space Nine.
Benjamin.
Are you doing the Nicole Franzel from Big Brother, which is something we had last night. We covered Big Brother here, the premiere on not here, but on Super Mater Brothers podcasting, the other channel we have, and that was quite the premiere and episode. So go check that out over on that channel. But he'd be here tomorrow as we reenact an episode of Deep Space Nine, where Kevin, Jane, myself, all playing these original series Klingons as they reprise their role after 30 years, and Ashley playing the role of the narrator as well as the nemesis, the albino, the one the Blood Oath is against. So check that out as we reenact that with some interesting and fun voices. What am I doing? I clicked the wrong button. Oh, what the hell? Okay. All right. And Tuesday nights we do Deep Space Nine. Thursdays we do original series as well. Or Wednesdays next week Wednesday. Anyway, so I'm Dave Maynor, Jaemeel Robinson, Jeff Maynor, Jane Maynor. We thank you all. Thanks to all of you. And we'll